Hello everyone. Hope all of you are having a great week so far. JD and I are back with another packed episode of Wasted Wanderers. We have 4 stories for you today. We decided to see how it works with 4 instead of just 3. And anyway, they were all very interesting, so we said, okay, we're gonna give this format a shot. So yeah, let's get started. I will be kicking us off today on this one. And yeah, so I'm guessing everyone's already seen where we are with Xbox. The Xbox division of Microsoft recently got a new CEO, and she had a 100-day plan. And yeah, of course, messages were sent to the Xbox teams globally, and now we are going to get 3,200 layoffs over the course of 2027, I believe, or I guess because their fiscal is already started, they will over the rest of this year, basically. Now, uh, let's put it this way. For me, let me guys pull this up. Yeah. So let me put it this way. Xbox has been struggling to compete in the gaming industry for a while anyway. It has never been as popular as PlayStation. In fact, I don't even know if it's as popular as like Nintendo, because Nintendo tends to attract a very different kind of audience. So PlayStation is your, serious gamers, quote unquote, who want to make a career out of this or something. The games are very sophisticated. You need to, really put your brain in and play them. Nintendo is for, I don't care about the graphics. I just want like fun storylines, and then, I don't really want to concentrate on the game so much as, I can, just keep my brain aside and enjoy playing. And then there is Xbox that is trying to more or less be PlayStation. They have a very good gaming console, I would say. I mean, I think Xbox is pretty strong. It's just that PlayStation had such a large head start that a lot of the really proprietary, cool games ended up on PlayStation for a long time. And then obviously, when you have a second competitor like this who has a very minimally differentiated product, they basically try to first sell it cheaper, um, or they're trying to give maybe their studios more money. And then, of course, with Xbox, it basically has to carry the weight of Microsoft Windows on it. So everything inside the Xbox starts looking like Windows. It feels more and more like a part of the whole Windows ecosystem. And I personally feel what's happening here is, just as everyone is getting into this fatigue with Windows 11, with AI being shoved down everyone's throats all the time, even if they don't want to eat that. I think they tried something similar with Xbox, with Copilot just nosing around everything, and I think that's what's also counting towards the issues that this division is facing. Now, I'm at least glad, like Asha's letter, Asha, who I don't know her last name, but I know it's her first name is Asha, and she has basically come out and said business is not healthy. We are operating at margins 3 to 10x lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. They will reset their current portfolio, and basically a bunch of studios will be spun off. We will be getting into one of those, of Bethesda. We got a story on that, so it's kind of related to this. And Mojang and King, which are their most profitable studios, will directly report to Asha. And the claim here is none of the flagship games that have already been announced across all studios, they will not, they will continue to get released. So gamers who are expecting those, they'll still get them. Now, another big competition that the gaming industry is facing is, making games has just gotten easier, and that has resulted in a lot of indie studios coming up. Sometimes you have like a really bonanza game coming out just by a single developer, or maybe like a team of 3 to 4. um, and the big studios or big production houses that are producing games, they are basically bloated, and they are having large operating costs, and they are not able to license their games or sell them for as cheap as possible. Now, since Microsoft owns a bunch of their studios, they end up basically making a loss if the games can't be sold at profitable rates. And for years, the model has been, okay, we sell you the gaming console for slightly cheap. We may even just break even or take a loss on it, but we will sell you game discs, and we'll try to make money. That has well stopped working, because you have this one random indie game comes in, makes a lot of money, everyone loves it, and then your big games are sort of lagging behind. um, can Xbox be revived by Asha? I think it can. um, I think Microsoft as a company tends to make sensible decisions when it comes to reviving their brands. I mean, they've made some very shitty choices as well. Let's get that right. Like Copilot. I mean, I don't know. Um, but overall, I think Microsoft has the wherewithal to revive it. Um, as long as they don't come up with any solutions that burn a lot of money, I think they can turn this around. For the people who have lost employment, um, it's almost become it's sad to say, but this kind of news doesn't come as a surprise these days, right? Before, you would say, oh my god, a company is laying off 10,000 employees, 5,000 employees, 2,000 employees, and you would actually feel it. I think we have seen so much of such news in the last 2 years that personally I've just become habituated, right? Oh my god, another set of layoffs. I know it doesn't sound humanistic, but all I can tell everyone is, who are in jobs anyways, start your side hustles, start your side income streams, dabble in options, have your Amazon FBA business, sell something on Etsy, start a YouTube channel, start your TikTok, or just start investing smartly with the money that you're saving. And I hope you're saving, and that 10% rule is not going to work anymore. You have to minimum save 20 to 30% every paycheck somehow. And I know even in the States it's getting more and more difficult, with consumers getting squeezed in from both sides, where salaries are probably dropping, and cost of living is going up. I don't see there to be a reset in the tech industry as far as job prospects are concerned anytime soon. And this is even worse news for India, just because India piggybacked on the tech boom as the world's back end. Um, and it made the careers of many people, and now everyone, what happens is, when such a layoff happens, a lot of the employees affected are H1B holders. 70% of H1B holders are Indians, so naturally a lot of people end up back in India, and now they are also finding difficulties in getting employment, especially not at the levels and the salaries they are used to in the States. So I think we are going through a time of adjustment, massive adjustment for everyone. Personally, if you're in tech, start looking, even if there is no horizon, nothing to do with layoffs on the horizon in your company, just because you don't know how long this is going to last. It's become a fashion statement to release layoff news. It is a fashion statement at this point. Every time someone gets laid off, the bloody stocks go up. So it's a gravy train running. Some of it has to do with AI. Most of it is still pandemic over hiring correction. But anyway, I've ranted a lot. So, JD, what do you think?
Right. Yeah, it's always sad to see layoffs. Um, and I feel Xbox just made the most short sighted move in gaming history. They laid off half of ID Software. So, if for people who don't know, they are the creators of legendary Doom um, game series. And reports say they gutted the entire engine team down to one single developer. One. So one guy will be making the game for the whole studio. So by removing this particular team, Microsoft isn't just cutting staff, they're discarding decades of proprietary institutional knowledge. So, game engines, assets, level design, sound, things like that. So, I feel it's very short sighted, but how they announced it is even crazier. So they are just ripping the band-aid off. They announced 3,200 cuts spread across the entire fiscal year, with 1,600 happening immediately. So this will result in the entire industry moving closer to open gaming engines like Unreal Engine, which kills technical diversity and gameplay variety. So, in the future, if you want to create a game, all these big custom engines would not exist. So, all the games would kind of look the same. So, that's unfortunate. Um, and Xbox openly admitted in an internal memo that Game Pass did not grow at the pace they expected. So, for years, they were pushing this Game Pass into everybody's throat, like, give us some amount monthly and you can play all the games you want, like a all you can eat buffet. And industry was questioning, like, how can a subscription model sustain 200 plus million dollar AAA games budget without traditional box sales? And we finally have the answer: it can't. So now Microsoft is abandoning this Netflix of gaming strategy and reverting back to its old margin chasing corporate uh, thing. Now, I think during the pandemic and even before that, they spent billions acquiring studios just to realize that, they're all just producing mid tier content. If you compare it to all these new indie games that Abhi was talking about. And it's not just Microsoft. The whole gaming industry is kind of facing a downturn. Like Sony is guilty of this. Both of them tried to outcompete each other by giving out free games, and they ended up commoditizing the whole gaming business. So now, if I want to play any Call of Duty game or any game that I used to like, I can just pay, per month and play for a little bit, then cancel or do like this. I can play on Xbox or PlayStation. It's not a big deal. Now, Nintendo, on the other hand, was more deliberate. So they're careful about protecting their IP. You can't play Mario on other platforms, right? So their games aren't commoditized. Um, I mean, and speaking of indie games, like now the ceiling is so low. Like Abhi and me can create an indie game using just AI models. It's that easy now. So the whole industry is just commoditized. They don't need as many engineers and people anymore, unfortunately. So why would anybody spend millions in building, you know, these high budget IPs? There are some exceptions like GTA, games that come out once in a decade. They demand this kind of investment. So I would compare GTA Grand Theft Auto to like a Marvel movie. You know, everybody knows about it, everybody is going to buy it. It makes sense for that. But every game does not need a, multi-million dollar budget. If you ask me, like personally, I feel like Xbox is not a differentiable brand anymore. It's not the same Xbox we grew up with. I feel they should just shut the brand now and focus on just publishing the games. Um, I know PlayStation gives a better user experience in terms of, console. You have the PC. Valve also came out with their console. You have Nintendo. Just publish the games. Why take the headache of making an hardware and trying to compete in a commoditized market? So yeah, that is my 2 cents.
I think now there will be space in the market for a console that is focused on providing physical media for their games. Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, all of these will end up going fully online. You'll have to download it from their store, you'll have to pay them money, and there will be space in the market for someone to come and say, "Here, you can have my." I don't know what Valve does. I'm basically a gaming version. I've hardly played too many games, but what I'm seeing overall in the world of tech is there is a movement towards wanting ownership. Like just in Vancouver, there's a street called Commercial Street. It has a bunch of really good restaurants, and you kind of just, there's a station called Commercial Broadway. You get off at that station, you start walking north on Commercial. There are literally four shops that are offering records, tapes, books, everything you can imagine. And you go into these stores, yes, they're independently owned, but they're selling record players. They're all surviving just on one bloody street, within a mile of each other, mile and a half, if that. So there will be space in the market for companies that allow ownership. People are sick and tired of subscriptions. Um, so yeah, if someone comes in and says, "Here is our gaming console where you can put in your CD, play for as long as you want. The game is yours forever. You don't have to beg us every month, so that to be able to play your own games. And if your subscription stops, you don't have to worry about all that. There will be space in that, definitely. All right, guys, let's move to the next one. Go ahead, JD, kick us off on this one.
Right. So this one is very interesting. Silicon Valley just got caught slipping secret spyware into its own AI to track Chinese engineers, and the tech Cold War is officially starting. So that's what the big deal here is. So China issued this backdoor security alert over Anthropic's Claude code. Uh, Now, it's not just a simple security alert, it's a escalation of this US China AI Cold War that's been happening in the background. So, Anthropic secretly embedded hidden code inside Claude code. So its job was to act like a spyware, covertly checking users' time zone, proxy settings, things like that, to hunt down Chinese AI labs and engineers accessing the tools via workarounds. So why workarounds? Because you can't officially use Anthropic products in China. Now, why are people using it in China? Of course, because Claude is good, but basically because Chinese AI firms are executing a massive intellectual property heist called model distillation. So what they do is they're going to query this expensive Claude model again and again and try and train their own model on Claude. So it's going to ask questions repeatedly and try and train it up and make their own cheaper local models smarter. So for example, Anthropic recently accused the Quen AI team that has released a lot of open source model of creating 25,000 fake accounts to generate nearly 29 million exchanges just to scrape and copy Claude's brain. And Anthropic got desperate enough to stop it that they escorted to deploying these backdoor tactics, which are usually reserved for malware. If you ask me, to be honest, I don't think anything is wrong with this distillation technique. it's a legit use. Technically, you're just querying, right? So Anthropic is getting paid for tokens. It's not like they're getting hacked or anything. So why are they so worried about how it's being used? It's like if I am doing searches on Google and I'm trying to build a search engine on top of that using my searches. I mean, Google would be like, yeah, go ahead, give us the advertising dollars. Anytime you enter something, you click on something, we get a few cents. That's how this works. Now, it's interesting because Anthropic itself does not have a advertising model. OpenAI has it, but Anthropic uh, is purely on subscription model. So they cannot take advantage of this distillation like other companies can. And I've been thinking, like this Anthropic subscription model has been a huge cash cow. I think they have overtaken OpenAI in revenue, like average ARR revenue. I think they're at $50 billion run rate, which is insane. But because they're not depending on this advertising model, it's going to be a big problem in the future because advertising can solve a lot of issues. Like people can cancel subscription very easily. What will happen if that starts happening for some reason? So it can be a big problem in the future. But yeah, in short, like I don't see anything wrong with Anthropic distillation by Chinese companies. Um, but another thing I want to discuss is because Anthropic has done this, it has fractured a core rule of tech infrastructure, which is transparency. So developers use these tools to build corporate infrastructure, right? The moment a AI giant proves that they're willing to do these stealthy things in the logic for geopolitical reasons, they will lose trust of engineers. So China has blocked Claude Code, but Alibaba internally, because Alibaba has offices outside China, have blacklisted Claude Code fully. Like they're pushing engineers to other models. So yeah, what do you think, Abhi?
I'm not. Hmm. Okay, I'm reminded of a Justin Timberlake song called What Goes Around Comes Around. Now you have the frontier AI models, all American companies, even the Chinese ones, DeepSeeks and Quens and everyone, they have all used public data to train their models and get to some level of efficiency. Now there is infighting happening in all these, you know, pools of filth that exist called AI labs. So even okay, I'm not surprised that Anthropic built something like this, right? I'm not surprised if tomorrow there'll be news that OpenAI built something like this. I won't be surprised if Gemini is building all this. I won't actually even be surprised if DeepSeek, Quen, or something is building the same thing for the Chinese government. It's just bound to happen. Like, this news story was more like comic relief than anything. Like, there was very little shock value for me. It was it was gonna come out sometime or the other, right? Two key lessons to be taken from this, though. One is, has the Chinese story really changed when it comes to building great products? To me, it looks like the playbook is essentially the same: copy the West. Somehow or the other, figure out a way to copy the West, as JD was mentioning. Um, but the second thing is, US companies, cutting edge technology companies, are increasingly finding more value in their Chinese counterparts just because they know that in order to stay ahead of the curve or even stay at par with the curve, they're going to have to try and copy them. and that's why something like some news like this comes out. Of course, they can also eventually start using it for spyware and covert operation, all that shit. But essentially, the heart of it, the distance between China and America in terms of AI proficiency is probably narrower than we think. Your DeepSeeks, your Quens, your Alibabas, whatever their model is, they might not be as great on metrics as your Anthropics and your OpenAIs, but they might just be good enough for daily tasks. And if they become, and they're basically open source, right? So they don't cost as much. So what this is telling me is I can move to an open source Chinese model, and then not have to worry about, in my case, getting a Gemini subscription. I like Gemini. I'm going to continue using it for the foreseeable future. All I'm saying is, to me, this tells me I have more options. But the second big lesson is anyone who's not living in these two countries, US and China, they better start thinking about AI sovereignty, because the only way you will protect your data, the integrity of your data, is if you have your own damn models, which are deployed across all your government functionality, um, so that the risk of espionage or spying or whatever is minimized. Of course, you can have a company, let's say I'll take India, right? You can have a company in India comes up with an AI model, and then as a secret dealing, let's say with China or the US, they're selling back information on the back end, and then years later something blows up. That's still possible. But all countries who are serious about AI need to start thinking about AI in a sovereign sense as well. Just because we have seen two pieces of news. One of them is this. The second one was when the U.S. government decided to pull the rug on Mythos and Fable. I think those were the two Anthropic models. They said no, no one can use it, and the idea was that okay, it's an export ban, but then everyone who's also dealing with an export company also gets the ban, so ultimately no one could use it for some time. Recently I was using Claude, and I saw, I think, at least Fable pop up again. I don't think Mythos was even ever released to the public. So there are going to be laws all over the, especially in US and China, that are going to supersede any contracts any AI company signs with any customer that is outside of their borders. And if you want 100% availability, then you're just going to have to build your own. And to me, that's the key takeaway here. Okay, guys, story number 3. Adobe to focus on freemium user growth over short term revenue gains as CFO exits. Actually, JD, go ahead. Start this one off. I, I
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know which one is funnier, this one or the previous one. But okay.
man, this is like a slow sinking Titanic. That's what Adobe is. But yeah, I can get started. So Adobe just posted record profits, but their stock crashed anyway because their top executives are abandoning ship. Um, so it's very funny, almost like a comedy. Like Adobe had a stellar Q2 earnings report, $6.62 billion in revenue, and they raised their guidance, but the stock plunged. Why? Because the CFO abruptly quit to join Marvel Technology, which is a chip maker. And if you see Marvel stock, it's just skyrocketing. It's just going through the roof. Just like other memory stocks like Micron and things like that, right? And this comes right after, like literally 3 months after their previous CEO, Shantanu Narayan, announced his intention to step down. So the C-suite is just running. So losing your both your CEO and CFO in a 90-day window while your company is in the middle of a massive high-stake pivot is a code red for Wall Street. So what is this high stakes pivot? Um, so Adobe was famous for its subscription based model. I think they had perfected the SaaS model around its creative suite, right? Now they're quietly restructuring their entire playbook because of heavy competition from AI competitors like Canva, Midjourney, and Claude. I mean, everybody is a competitor to Adobe, right? So they're rolling out aggressive freemium model. So giving away uh, generative AI features upfront to hook users and pausing their planned price hikes on core subscriptions. So while their monthly active users have exploded, uh, they also said that it's going to affect their ARR, annualized recurring revenue, in the long term. And that's the thing. Like, there's like a report that perfectly highlights what the current crisis is. So, hardware companies like Nvidia, Marvel, where the CFO just fled, are making an ungodly amount of money selling AI infrastructure. Like, they can't make it quick enough. Um, just go and try and buy a RAM, right now, or make your own PC. It's like your price would be more than double of what it was a couple of years ago. So they are making bank while software companies, especially SaaS companies like Adobe, Salesforce, Intuit, Workday, they are having a brutal time trying to prove that they can actually monetize AI features without losing their shirt. So that's why Adobe stock is down 37% because investors are realizing that AI makes software more powerful, but it also lowers the barrier to entry. And it's just destroying this massive competitive moats that these tech giants have spent decades building. I think we are seeing like a massive, massive change in SaaS industry. It's bigger than Adobe, but obviously Adobe is kind of a pioneer in the SaaS space, and that's why they're getting the most amount of heat. So, Abhi, over to you.
So, I think I agree with JD's points that okay, this is about AI lowering barrier to entry in software. I also think that when you start, the minute you start thinking that your moat is unbreachable, is the minute you start actually losing it. Recently, we have seen three, I guess, including this one, but there have been a couple of examples where some sort of greed and or some sort of showing off or just some sort of too much over flexing of muscles has caused you know the downfall in one way or the other. So two three disjointed stories, right? But I think the most prominent one that comes to my mind is Portugal losing to Spain, where you literally have the Portuguese team. It almost looked like they didn't want to win because they don't want Ronaldo to get success, and they forgot that they are actually playing for the country Portugal and Ronaldo is their star player. Now, same thing with the US, right? They went ahead, the administration called up FIFA, can you please overturn the red card? And then they played the US card, we are US, we will throw 100% tariffs on you. I don't know, whatever happened in that room. And then what happened? 4-1. Now, this story is playing out with Adobe in a different way. They got so fucking greedy with their subscription models. What, $85 a month? I'm talking about CAD, so maybe it's 75 in US. Fine. 85, 90 CAD a month to use their software suite. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a great software suite. But as soon as I say, okay, I just want Premiere Pro, or maybe I just want Photoshop, suddenly I'm almost paying the same amount as I would for everything. how freaking expensive is Adobe Acrobat? It's fucking ridiculous. Same thing Microsoft tried to pull off. I guess Microsoft is faring slightly better than Adobe because they have other moats. But this year, Microsoft Office 365 Personal, they tried to increase the price. Well, they did increase the price by 45% on a pre-tax basis. So that I'm just making sure that let's not factor in taxes. Microsoft has no say in that. So, and I was one of those users. I just quit. I'm like, I'll just use LibreOffice or I'll just use Pages because I have a Mac. And there are many users of Adobe of that in that same boat, right? We'll use DaVinci Resolve. It's okay to have a subscription model as long as you continue to provide value. It's worth it to pay every month for something. And the bar for that is getting higher because AI does a lot of that stuff. So going back to my earlier point in that whole gaming console one, there is space for software and hardware which is, buy now, use forever, or use for as long as you can. And anyone who's eyeing this space, they can make a huge killing at this point. Do I think Adobe can revive itself? Yes, they have a lot of money, provided they keep their greed aside. This whole freemium nonsense is just greed. They're trying to lock customers in, and customers have realized the playbook. Same thing happened with Netflix, but Netflix keeps making more money anyway. So I guess Netflix is not quite there yet because there are alternatives, but Netflix is a really strong player in its space, and it's become more of a verb. Let's Netflix and chill, right? So yeah, Adobe can turn itself around. I have a feeling they can come back in the game. They have a really healthy suite of software. Their product is good. Their pricing is shit. If they can somehow go back to being a company about providing value to its customers, just like Starbucks did, right? They said we will go back to being the third spot. You don't want to go work at your workplace, you're sick of the whole office, fine. You don't want to work at home just because you're also sick of your own home, fine. We can be that third spot. You come in, it's a coffee shop, you don't have to keep buying every 2 hours. And Starbucks is doing well. They just had a stock rally when I think it touched 100, 110. Now it's come back down a bit, but they're doing well. They got the guy who turned around Chipotle, so they made a right move there. To me, Adobe's decision is just more, whatever they teach you in a business school. And to me, Starbucks' decision was, okay, we need to preserve a brand and we need to preserve the core of the business. I don't know when Adobe will get to that point. I hope it gets to it, but I also feel the minute they get to it, they will actually be able to revive. Those are my 2 cents on it. Only time will tell, but yeah, this freemium strategy, it'll work. It'll work for people who are just entering maybe a side hustle space. They want to start a YouTube channel or something. Oh, Adobe is giving me a free trial, I'll use it. And then I will use the reminders app on my Android or my iPhone to cancel the subscription, one day before it expires. So I just don't think these tricks are going to work in the long term. But we'll see how this one goes. So everyone, guys, drum roll for our final story today. And let's go here. This is actually coming from Canada, and the government is trying to build a high-speed rail between basically Quebec City and Toronto. And the idea is they want to add another station along this line at a city called Kingston. Now, for those who may not know Canada, just I'll give you a TLDR. 70% of Canadian population, maybe 50 to 60% of Canadian population live in that stretch between Quebec City and Toronto, which is Ontario. and then the rest of the country is largely empty, other than Vancouver and then Calgary and Edmonton, some big cities along the way, but largely empty. So this corridor between Quebec City and Toronto is very profitable for rail. It's also profitable for air, but it's highly viable for rail corridors, and most of Via Rail's services actually service this section. It's kind of like the eastern seaboard of the US, where between New York and between Boston and Philadelphia, you have the highest concentration of traffic. Maybe not Philadelphia, I guess, okay, Washington DC. So between Boston and DC, you have the highest concentration of Amtrak. That's kind of like what this corridor is for Canada. Well, that pretty much is what this corridor is for Canada. Now they've been trying to build a high-speed rail which can go up to 300 kilometers per hour, and the idea here is if you add another station at Kingston, it will increase the budget by about $3.9 billion, and the project is already costing $90 billion. So again, dollars here is Canadian, so I guess 70 US, and then it'll add about two more billion US. Firstly, seriously, 4 billion to add another station? Fuck. I don't know. I am an engineer by degree, even mechanical engineer, but I haven't done it in a while. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But for adding one station, 4 billion itself seems a lot. The 90 billion price tag itself is an overrun. So when someone makes a case that, oh my God, there'll be a budget overrun, I'm like, it's already overrun. $90 billion to make, I guess, 2 railway tracks, one up and down, high speed, sure. So you may have to add upgraded signaling, you'll have to upgrade the infrastructure, but 90 billion still is a lot. And then in this story, there's also a Quebec angle where they have a bunch of Quebecers coming out and saying, oh, it will split our communities because there will be a track going through them. Here's my suggestion to the federal government or whoever is building this. Let's not have this corridor enter Quebec whatsoever. Kingston to Toronto, that's your first phase of high-speed rail line. Have your regular via rail service the rest of the corridor, because Quebec is just anti-development. Okay, maybe not anti-development, but they whine a lot. Anyone who lives in Canada, like, when Donald Trump makes all these things about 51st state and everything, I'm like, that's never going to happen, because US does not want Quebec. I assure you of that. They are the pita bread that we have to consume every day, regardless of whether we like hummus or not. In fact, let's go save the environment. Let's ban all cars in Montreal. Anyway, the roads are shit. Pothole after pothole after pothole. Like, I've lived there. Don't get me wrong, their civil services are nice, like, on point always with snow cleaning, much better than Toronto anyway. But let's just ban all cars in Montreal. I think their subway system not that great, but whatever. Let's just ban it, right? Because pollution. Let's not have a high-speed rail. In fact, let's just take down the one that is already there from the via rail, right? Unfortunately, to get to the Atlantics here, you don't get a choice. But this is also the province that was saying we won't allow a pipeline to go through our territory, right? Let's give them what they want. And then I just don't know what the outcome of that would be. But I find it very disheartening to see all the time that, on a serious note now, I just find it very disheartening to see all the time that even if the federal government is trying to do something sensible, there is always opposition. This reminds me of Indian politics. Really, this does remind me of Indian politics. Yeah, you're going to have a rail track. You will have a town split in two because of that damn rail track. You know what they will build along with it? A bridge that can go over it. It can have a road and it can be a footpath as well. Or maybe they can just make the track go above so that your road exists and your town doesn't get split in two. In a in the second largest country in the world, we have such a tough time building critical infrastructure projects. These are not projects that are just for show. These are not vanity projects. These are very much needed, especially in the Quebec to Windsor corridor. It's packed with people. The more mobility you can provide them, the better it is for that whole region. There is no pipeline all the way to eastern Canada or central Canada, which does not cross the US. And then we keep thinking, um, yeah, I don't understand. So, yeah, JD, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel uh, the favorite sport in Quebec is just banning things and whining about things. So I 100% agree. Like, Canada is spending 4 billion extra dollars to slow down its bullet train just to buy local votes. That's the headline, you know. And anytime I hear high speed rail project in North America, I think it'll be a waste of money. It's always like, billions of dollars to go for like 2 miles or something like that. If you want to see the crown jewel of high speed rail money wastage in North America, that is the proposed high speed rail between SF and LA in California. It's just nuts. Like, I can't even fathom the numbers. Maybe we'll talk about that in the future. But there's something wrong with building these big infrastructure project in North America. I mean, it's not that expensive to build it anywhere in the else. So what's different? I think it's a mix of regulatory chaos. There's not one authority you need to go to get the permits, things like that. Anybody can come in at any moment and stop your plan. Uh, they're union captured jobs, so you can't ask the market to do it at the cheapest price possible because it's controlled by the union. And of course, prime example, Kingston, which is giving political favors, right? So the trifecta of this is what makes building in North America a mess. So just for a second, yeah, talking about this, I think Abhi talked, I mean, almost all the points I agree with. Uh, but this was supposed to be a 300 kilometer per hour high speed rail between Toronto and Quebec. But the federal government ordered a massive detour to add a stop in Kingston, potentially followed by another Toronto suburb. Uh, so that would make the train actually slow down and adding roughly 30 minutes to the total trip. So if politicians keep adding stops to please the local voters, this futuristic bullet train just becomes an incredibly overpriced commuter train. So why do we need to build it in the first place, right? Uh, yeah, and this project is exposing a massive class divide also in Ontario. Uh, the local farmers are protesting outside press conferences. Some of them I saw were in tears. To build this dedicated corridor, the government has to build 3 meter high concrete walls through all the lands that they're going through. Imagine like 3 meter high concrete walls on the either side for how many kilometers, right? Uh, it's literally dividing rural communities in half. But as Abhi said, we have a solution: build a bridge, do something. Uh, but yeah, I don't know if this is a fixable problem. Like, the main issue is this uh, North America, where we're building it, because we have two very different countries like Canada, US, but the problem is the same. In US, I think it's even worse. And look at China and Japan. They've just built a high speed rail really easily. I think there's even going to be one in India between Mumbai and Ahmedabad, and I am sure that's going to be built in time. So I don't have a solution for this. This to me is just unfortunate. Yeah.
So I guess, guys, signing off maybe on a slightly somber note for today. Um, yeah, just because a lot of the news is negative layoff, infrastructure project overrun. Um, I guess the Adobe one was a little at least they're trying to revive themselves. So I'll give them some brownie points there. Um, Anyways, everyone, see you till the next time. Stay happy, stay healthy, and yeah, have a great coming weekend. We just have one more day to go, and we have made it to the finish line, at least for this week. Enjoy the semifinals, and yeah, we will see you next week, same place. Bye bye.
Bye bye.